Well, we're live yet again and another game to talk about. Bangladesh taking on West Indies. A game that we hope कि यार इससे ज़्यादा तो close होएगा. Unfortunately, wasn't to be the case. West Indies were clinical through and through. We've got Jeet and Soumi joining us today. Hello, folks. Soumi, in terms of the game, again, expectations के हिसाब से तो काफी बड़ा reality check हो गया यार.
एग्जैक्टली exactly, और ये था कि यार आई वाज होपिंग अगेंस्ट ऑल द होप्स कि कहीं ना कहीं पे कुछ तो एक अपसेट या फिर समथिंग सम मिरेकल बांग्लादेश विल पुल ऑफ एंड honestly not exactly hoping against all hopes because there were certain logical reasonings as well कि चलो बांग्लादेश शायद कुछ कर लेगी because of course they were playing in Sharjah, they had got adapted there pretty well. It was first game of West Indies, सब कुछ चल रहा था एंड देन आफ्टर द टॉस व्हेन वी वर एक्चुअली होपिंग फॉर वेस्ट इंडीज टू ऑप्ट फॉर बैटिंग, again like they gave us a complete surprise, and they chose to chase. At that point of time मुझे तो लग रहा था they were just riding on overconfidence from the Scotland match and they were just going with absolute arrogance into this. uh, but yeah, I mean, I think they had a solid game plan and Bangladesh helped them achieve that.
Yeah, for sure. The way toss also panned out, you really thought कि यार West Indies चल क्या रहा है इतना तो हल्के में मत लो, but wasn't to be the case. Bangladesh never really got going. Unfortunately, despite starting off well, at least intent to काफी था. We've spoken about how even in the previous games, Shati Rani showed the intent. She's shown कि she wants to play attackingly. Unfortunately, वो execution में थोड़ा मार खा रही है. But hopefully, she will learn from this. She's still a youngster, so lot more games under her belt would result in much better performances for her. But again, for the uninitiated, let's have the match summary out. Like we said, West Indies won the toss and opted to bowl first. In fact, this was the first time that happened in Sharjah in the World Cup. Bangladesh asked to bat first. Dilara Akhtar and Shati Rani got off to a decent start, to be honest. There were boundaries on offer. They took them. There were also a few edges that went their way. It seemed like, yeah, you know what? If Bangladesh gets off to a healthy start here at the end of the power play, who knows? They might even be able to go past 120. Wasn't to be the case. Shati Rani forgot कि crease नाम की भी चीज होती है और पैर को crease के पीछे भी रखना होता है. She forgot about it, was out stumped, and then from there, Nigar Sultana and later on Sobna Mustri also put up a very good partnership before Sobna hold out, and from there on, it never really got going for Bangladesh. Nigar Sultana was the lone warrior and got out in the last over, trying to hit a six. Again, all in all, 103 for 8. At toss time, you would have imagined that West Indies would take the score because 110 to 120 was the range that we were also talking about yesterday. कि यार यहाँ पे 115 तक कैसे भी करके पहुंच जाए तो it will be easier for them to even defend it. West Indies, of course, tried to mimic what they did against Scotland and was successful yet again. Got off to a very brisk start. There was a change in the opening combination today. It was Stephanie Taylor opening with Hayley Matthews. Thankfully, again, better sense prevailed. We were talking about how यार Kiana Joseph को क्यों भेज रहे हो वहाँ पे? Probably they realized the Marufa Akhtar threat, and she was bowling really well. She was a tad bit unfortunate to not get a couple of dismissals. Stephanie Taylor, in fact, that in-dipping delivery or that hit her pads went down the leg, of course, but was great to watch her with the new ball. She did get rid of Hayley Matthews. Then Deandra Doughton and Shameen Campbell took care of it. Sorry about that. But all in all, a fairly dominant performance from West Indies. They would be happy with how they've also given their NRR a nice little bump there. But Jeet, in terms of expectations, again, we spoke about how Bangladesh probably would love to bat first and make a game out of it. That never really happened.
Yeah, very much on the expected lines. In Bangladesh, those same issues for them, continuing even in this game. But yeah, at least a good part over here was, Shatirani again came out swinging, which she has been the previous games as well. So you're better off having somebody come out swinging rather than blocking. It's just that, that connection was not there because that technique is slightly sketchy. But at least the intent was there. And whenever you see that kind of intent coming from a Bangladesh batter, it's always a pleasant one because you don't have so many such batters available in their domestic system who like to take the game on right from ball one. So that was very good to see. TK, I mean, all the three games, it has not quite panned out well for her, even in terms of the strike rate. She, of course, came into the tournament with the reputation of having done a splendid job in the NCL and having a strike rate of 151. But in these three games, the strike rate has barely touched 100, and sometimes even less than 100 is what she's finished with. So it didn't really pan out well for them. But again, that intent part, or at least that clarity of thought that I'm here to attack, so that's my job. If I don't get runs, that's a different thing, but I have to attack because that is what I've been selected for. So that is exactly what she did. In the due process, it didn't work out. That's a different thing, but good to see that. Besides that, it was the same thing. Even Dilara Akhtar actually was quite impressive. Even she had a very good NCL, having had the second best strike rate in the tournament of 140 plus. So even she started off quite well. So I think both of them, intent-wise, it was not really an issue, but it's just that nobody could quite capitalize upon that. And from there on, it was again that typical slowdown that generally takes place. Subhana Mostari came in, and of course, Nigar Sultana was in as well at the end of the power play. And she, of course, dragged the game right till the end and got out in the last over. But in between, what happened from the end of the power play to the end of that particular innings was that nobody was able to take the game from the scruff of the neck and bat very aggressively. Shorna Akhtar has been a huge disappointment in this tournament. I know she's young, but she's that one young player who's capable of playing those big shots. But those big shots haven't come in any of the three games. Coming to Taj Nihar, I was talking about it in the first game itself, that don't let the two warm games influence your selections. Stick with somebody that's worked out for you. Now you have picked Taj Nihar, who has failed in all three games. Well, first game may run out to you, but for we don't do that. You've got other options. Stick with them. It might as well work. So on the expected lines in terms of how they went about it, the lack of boundaries, and the eventual score as well that they finished with.
Yeah, to be honest, between Sobna's wicket in the 13th over and also the end over, they scored only 26 runs from the 13th to the 19th over and lost 5 wickets. Sorry, 4 wickets. And that face sort of completely ensured West Indies, took the game with them because once Sobna got out, Nagar pretty much ran out of partners there. No one really, holding on to one end, which meant that she also was unsure कि अभी मार नहीं जाऊं because given the situation, you would ideally want to start attacking. But she also knows that it's important for her to stay till the end so that Bangladesh is able to get to a respectable total. And in that conundrum, they lost a lot of runs. They weren't really able to attack as efficiently as they would have liked to. But show me, now talking about West Indies' bowling as well, we've spoken about their first game. South Africa was a 10-wicket loss. Then against Scotland and Bangladesh, they've really come back very strongly.
Yes. So of course, Karishma was an absolute surprise package because I mean, we have been talking about West Indies in the light of batting so much. We have spoken a little bit about bowling, but I do not recall from even any of our conversations we have talked about Karishma that much. But so she was a complete surprise package, at least for me, who haven't been following West Indies cricket for quite some. I mean, for any time in the recent past. Now, of course, she made a lot of difference. She came in right in the power play. She picked up the top 3 wickets. She took a wicket in the last ball of the power play. I believe that kind of shook Bangladesh quite a bit because their power play, they were fairly hitting well. They were hitting boundaries at that point of time. Right after the power play, the run rate did fall down, and but yeah, Nigar Sultana did try to pull that up. Even Shobna was quite well assisting Nigar. And then again, Shobna's wicket. I think those 3 key wickets, the way she took, and of course, then she picked up the 5-4 for brilliant bowling all through and through. But along with that, I was also pretty much impressed with Afi Fetcher. Of course, she had taken a 3 for in the last game. She came out with that bold statement that we are here to have a really for business and not for a joyride. Like showed a lot of confidence. Of course, she comes in with a lot of experience. But yeah, I mean, there was I think her second over. She went for 3 boundaries. She went for around 14 runs, very strongly hit by Nigar. And then in the next spell, when she came back, she picked up those back-to-back wickets in the middle over, which actually put the nail in the coffin for Bangladesh. So yeah, I mean, very impressed by the comeback. Of course, experience speaks volumes, and that's what probably we saw there. Over and above, very good bowling effort, especially to control Bangladesh from the 10th over to the rest of the innings. Hardly 40-45 runs out there, as you rightly mentioned, a ton of wickets. So yeah, brilliant effort by West Indies to control that innings.
Yeah, and also given that this was their first game in Sharjah, Jeet, we'd spoken about how Chanel Henry, despite the conditions, would be someone to watch out for because of that pace and the ability to move. Clearly, the surface did not aid her, and that resulted in them relying on the spinners. But the spinners also came to the party, and this is again a Haley Matthews less spin attack we're talking about because Matthews herself did not really contribute too much when it comes to wickets, but it was the rest who really did well for them.
Yeah, starting with Chanel Henry first, the venue factor was a huge thing that went into it because when you look at the average bounce, when you compare the two venues, of course, Sharjah has had a lot lower bounce. And even in terms of lateral movement, it has had lesser movement than what we have seen in Dubai, especially in the evening games. So these were two polar opposites as compared to what Chanel Henry and the impact she had in the previous game. So it was always going to be a different challenge altogether for her to replicate the performance like the way she did against Scotland. So it didn't really pan out. They tried to do that in the first 2 overs, but it was not quite happening. She was not hitting the right lengths. There was not as much movement, nor as much pace or bounce. So the batters were still able to negotiate her much better than what the Scottish batters managed. So, of course, it led to just 2 overs being given to her. And then I think West Indies realized that there is no point of this. It's time to go to the spinners. We know what the record speaks. So let's start bowling them. Let's just bank upon them and get the job done. So overall, also, I think there were only a total of 3 overs from pace that were bowled in the entire innings. The rest, 17 were of spinners. So even Ali Allen, potentially she has an injury, it seems. Otherwise, it's very unusual for her to just bowl 1 or 2 overs every game because she's fantastic, as we have seen in WCPL as well. But it was the spinners, like you mentioned. Even Ashwini Munsar, being given that full quota. I know she didn't strike, but it shows how they are looking at her as well. Because right now, the problem for the West Indies is that Stephanie Taylor is not being able to contribute because of her injury concerns. Otherwise, even she would have been an off spin option. But because she can't, they need to rely on that extra off spin option, and that is Ashwini Munisar. So she also had to chip in. Haley Matthews bowled 4 overs, but of course, it was Karishma Ramharack who stood out. And again, a brilliant spell from her as well. Probably the quickest spinner in their side, with I think Ashwini Munisar being almost similar. But a good performance from the spinners. Kiana Joseph, again, very less amount of contribution or less amount of work being asked of her, which was again quite surprising. Because I thought this is that one game where she might bowl 2 overs, 3 overs, maybe even a full quota of 4 overs, because we know that the Bangladesh lineup is packed with right handers. So it was very surprising from that perspective. But it doesn't matter if they just need 1 or 2 spinners to put their hand up, take those 3, 4 wickets, 5 wickets, share the spoils, and get the job done. So they were able to do that phenomenally well. So good job from the West Indian spinners here.
Yeah, for sure. And even if you look at the way they bowl to the Bangla batters, it's a sort of telling tale that their top four scored 10 boundaries. Despite 10 batters batting, none of the other batters were able to score a boundary. And we've spoken about the dependence on Nigar Sultana. Now it's probably spread across the top three, top four batters, including Sopna, and to some extent, or very little, but some extent, Shati Rani and of course Dilara Akhtar. But the lack of contribution from the middle order, lower order, just sort of reflects in the way they've been able to score in the latter half of the innings. In fact, I remember Ian Bishop also speaking about how during the power play, last game against England, they were able to score only 2 boundaries in the first 8 overs. This time around, they scored 2 boundaries in the first 8 balls. So it did seem like, the top order is, taking the West Indies attack by the scruff of their neck. But again, once they got out, there was no one really there to replace the intent, let alone the results. But talking about the West Indies batters, none of that was a case for them. None of that was a cause for concern for them because show me again, we know that they were going to come all guns blazing because that's precisely why they opted to bowl first. ताकि net run rate पे भी वो focus कर पाएं and they can go for the kill. But the way they've executed, Haley Matthews, as someone Jeet spoke about yesterday, will be key for them. But apart from her as well, the way Deandra Doughton has just come and scored yet again, it augurs well for them right now.
Exactly. And, I mean, of course, win the power play and win the game has been the trend in this particular World Cup. And right in the power play, they just completely killed the game. 48 runs in the power play, 7 or 8 boundaries, of which 6 were hit by, how am I forgetting her name? The skipper?
Haley Matthews.
Haley Matthews. Yeah, and I have been just as soon as I was watching Haley Matthews hit those boundaries, I was just remembering how happy Jeet will be because he was so much banking upon Haley Matthews coming back into her form, and it makes such a lot of difference for the team. I mean. She has been such a phenomenal batter for the team through and through, and she's so young, and all of these things were actually will act up. And if at all West Indies gets to move ahead in this tournament, this knock will give a lot of solid confidence to the team. But yeah, over and above the approach, the attack, and the way they kind of took the game away right in the 12th over, I think that's absolutely phenomenal.
For sure, Ajit, again, because the last game is going to be against England, and that's pretty much a must win game, given that South Africa and they are in the same position. But South Africa's last game is against Bangladesh in Dubai. So again, a venue that would be in their favor, but for West Indies, that wouldn't necessarily be the case. Irrespective of whether they would play in Dubai or Sharjah, England would start favourites. And given the fact that they will be playing in Dubai, क्या लग रहा है वहां पे? Like this batting lineup and the momentum that they've gained right now, do you think that could potentially help them against England this time?
The momentum breaker could actually be Stephanie Taylor's injury because, of course, even tonight she had to walk out because she's having those knee issues. So we have been seeing that right from game one, and that's the very reason why she's being placed at say backward point where she doesn't have a lot of running to do because not a lot of deliveries are going through that third region. So I mean, some of them are going, and she's having to chase them, but otherwise it's rather a safe position because you don't have a lot of running to do. So I think that could as well turn out to be a momentum breaker. I would think if she doesn't play, then I think quite a few issues might actually prop up because the options are very, very limited because you again do not want to be going to Kiana Joseph as your opener. In the first game, they started with Kiana as an opener. Second game, they went back to Stefani with Kiana walking in number 3. And this game, luckily, they continued with that. And Kiana didn't even bat in the top 3, which is exactly what I wanted. And it was Shemaine Campbell at number 3. So even better for me. And Shemaine did a decent job at number 3. 21 of 16 is a good knock from her. And she showed the kind of things that I've been talking about in terms of her proactiveness at number 3 as a batter. And you get that with the keepers, right? They always like to play those sweep shots. They're always proactive when it comes to their foot movement versus spin. And that is something you get to see from Shemaine Campbell as well. So that was good as well. But it's going to be a challenge against England, irrespective of where they play. It's not going to be, so easy against a team who has got all the bases, all the departments very, very well covered, and also have that consistency in terms of performances and having, got this winning streak as well. So it's going to be a massive challenge, irrespectively. But right now, as things stand, of course, the West Indies are at the top of the group. But I personally still want to see them actually make the cut and make it through to the semis because I know that team, they just need one good day. And that day would require just 2 or 3 of their players to, put their hand up and deliver. That might as well turn out to be enough to defeat any team on a given day in the semi-finals or the finals, whatever it is. So I would still kind of want to see the West Indies make it through, but we'll have to wait in order to find that. But otherwise, I was quite happy because we had talked about how they might also look to replicate the template that they had set against Scotland. It was very similar, right? Against Scotland, they capped off the chase in 11.4 overs. In this game, they capped it off in 12.4 overs, with the target almost being very similar. And we saw a very, very similar pattern as well. It's just that Hayley Matthews was a bat who, stood apart as well in this game as compared to the previous. But otherwise, DeAndre Doughton was phenomenal. Just walk in, hit those big shots, cap it off. So that clarity of thought is brilliant to see. And that addition, we had talked about it in our previews as well. It bolsters their batting lineup so much. Yes, she hasn't contributed with the ball, but we can see the impact that Doughton has already had with the bat and in the field as well.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, 28 of 15 in the last game, 19 of 7 unbeaten in this game. So clearly, that's the kind of last bit fiery power that you would want. Is what you get from DeAndre Doughton. That is. Now, speaking a bit about Hayley Matthews itself, right? It's not often we see Hayley Matthews play 4 consecutive games for West Indies and not win a Player of the Match award. And next game again would be something to watch out for. We've spoken about their dependence on Hayley Matthews against England. We know she loves playing these, big name teams. So it will be very fascinating to see how that game pans out. Last game for both sides. West Indies potentially with a semi-final spot on the line would want to understand कि boss करना क्या है, कैसे खेलना है. Let me just confirm. Yep, that's the last game of the league stage, which means they will be at a clear advantage of knowing what exactly will be necessary in terms of net run rate requirements. So once again, that's something in their favor. Will they actually be able to leverage it? Is something we will have to keep an eye out for. Last bit of formality before we talk about tomorrow's game. Top performer has to be Karishma Ramharack. Fantastic performance. 4 for 17. Just the second 4 for in T20 eyes. So good on her. And again, 14 dot balls. And that's what helped her get those wickets. Just building up the pressure from one end. In short, boss, they had to attack in some shape or form. And they gave away their wickets to her. Jeet, let's start with you on this. Before this year, before 2024, Karishma did not really have any 4-4s. This time around, she's already in a span of 6 months taken 2. One against Pakistan 6 months ago, and now another 4 for 17 here. looks to be a great addition. We've spoken about Afi Fletcher with her wrist spinners being effective for West Indies, but in Hayley Matthews, you might say absence in some sense. It's good to see Karishma has stepped up.
Yeah, I'm very happy to see that because I recollected quite well because back in 2023 during the 50 overs World Cup, in 2022, sorry, it was. I was kind of looking at her as that X factor because despite them having a lot of off spinners, that is the West Indies having a lot of right arm off spinners. In my view, Karishma Ramharack still kind of stands out from the rest because I still see her as an X factor because how she bowls. Of course, the quickest spinner in the side in terms of the average pace, but she's got multiple variations up her sleeve and they seem to come in really, really handy. It's just that she's had this issue with, drifting it down the leg side, certain deliveries of hers, those arm balls and everything. She lacks that discipline when it comes to line. So it's about finding that discipline on a given day. When she is on a roll, if she's bowling with that disciplined or sustained consistency, then you can see the kind of impact she could have. And that's exactly what she had tonight as well. So brilliant to see that. But yeah, so it was always something that I had kind of looked forward to 2022 50 overs, 2023 the 20 over World Cup. And finally for her to kind of put her hand up and deliver the way she has is quite pleasing to see. And of course, with somebody like Hayley Matthews struggling to be amongst wickets, is 2 wickets in the entire tournament so far, it becomes even more important for her to be the leader of the pack now because of course they've gone past Anisa Mohammed. That chapter is potentially closed. So Hayley Matthews has become their lead off spinner on the side, and she's struggling as well. So it comes down to Karishma Ramharack, who's their next best or next experienced off spinner on the side. So a brilliant job by her, and I'm very happy to see that.
Yeah, hopefully she will be able to continue with these performances given that their last game is up against England, something we spoke about just a while back. Keen to see how they do it. Anyways, that's that from the first game, or rather the only game that we saw today. Time for us to now talk about the only game we will be seeing tomorrow, Australia versus Pakistan. An encounter that we thought would be a lot more closer before we got an update earlier today. And unfortunately, a very unfortunate update that. Show me how big is it going to be, Pakistan missing Fatima Sana.
I think Fatima Sana has been that. I mean, for me, Fatima Sana, honestly, beyond, I mean, apart from being, of course, a skipper who's showing a lot of promise, she's that young, bubbly X factor that Pakistan has. Which is always bringing in a lot of positivity to the game. She has taken Pakistan out of a difficult situation in the first game. She has been instrumental in the second game as well versus India. But yeah, I mean, it's very unfortunate, and we our condolences and our uh, you know uh, eh, I mean wishes for her and the family. But it's unfortunate. It'll be a big loss for Pakistan to get on from here, especially without the skipper. And considering that they are facing the toughest rival in Australia, it will be a very difficult situation for them. It's just unfortunate because they are sitting right, somewhere in the middle of the table, and they did have a lot of possibility of making this us maybe an upset. We have not seen any upset in this particular tournament yet. So maybe one upset out there, and there could have been the World Cup where would have lit up just as it got lit up yesterday with India's tremendous win. So yeah, there could have been more surprises out there, but it looks like a difficult situation to kind of look ahead
Yeah,
to.
I mean, for sure, right? Because as unfortunate as it is, more than her primary skill itself, it was her batting and leadership that Pakistan will be missing. Because bowling to फिर भी replace कर लोगे. It's not like her, like she contributed a lot there. It was more of her spinners and whatnot, taking care of the damage. But again, Jeet, the damage has been done. Unfortunately, she won't be available. How do you see that changing their 11? Because they're playing against Pakistan. I mean, they're playing against Australia in Dubai for those who haven't been aware of it. Of course, 7:30 p.m. sharp Indian Standard Time. It's coming live from Dubai. So, given the conditions there, how do you look at them replacing Fatima Sana? Diana Beg also potentially not going to play any more part in the tournament. So, do you see someone like Tasmia Ruba then making a World Cup debut?
Yeah, first of all, huge miss for Pakistan. Thoughts with Fatima Sana during these tough times. A huge miss on all four fronts because, of course, I mean, she was their best batter. You look at the strike rate, I mean, Sidra Amin's strike rate is 95, who's the second best. And top is, of course, Fatima Sana with 153. And similarly with the ball as well, Fatima Sana has been the leading wicket taker for Pakistan in this tournament with 4 wickets. And plus the captaincy value as well, where I was quite impressed with some of her tactics and how calm she was. So it's going to be a huge miss in all three departments of the game for Pakistan. And for this to happen in such a crunch game for them is very, very unfortunate for them. But coming to replacement, I think Diana Baig is going to be back. She's fit and expected to replace her, is what I've heard, from the reports and everything that I've kind of come across. So I think that's going to be a direct replacement, but it's still kind of unfortunate, right? Because it was game one when Diana Baig was injured and she had to walk out after just bowling probably one ball, if I remember. So that was very unfortunate. So they were already hit massively as far as the pace attack is concerned because their lead pacer was gone. So it came down to Fatima Sana to take the onus upon herself to get the job done as a sole pacer on the side. And of course, the lack of options are also very clear. Karata Alaria is not bowling or not being looked upon as an option. And now, heading into this particular game, there is no Fatima Sana either. So it's left them with absolutely no options whatsoever. But if these reports are any true, then I think Diana Begg will be playing tomorrow and she will be a direct replacement for Fatima Sana. As far as leadership is concerned, I think they've named Muniba Ali as a skipper. So I think again a new challenge lies for somebody like Muniba, who's also very young, very inexperienced to lead a side, and of course international level T20 World Cup against Australia. It's a different gravy altogether. So it's going to be challenging for Pakistan, irrespectively. It's just that I feel that they would have been better suited to take on Australia at Sharjah than Dubai because they've got look, they rely upon the spinners at the end of the day. And for spin to work, it's got to be Sharjah and not Dubai. Now, coming to Dubai with no Fatima Sana, it's challenge that is probably tripled for them. So it's not going to be that easy for them. But yeah, I mean, they'll have to pull their socks. As simple as that. Nida Dar will have to step in, perform brilliantly well. Alia Riaz, who has failed to show up in this tournament, also will have to chip in and contribute big time if they are to have any chance of toppling Australia.
And to be honest, it was also a tad bit surprising that they named Muniba Ali as the standard skipper. I know she was the vice captain heading into the tournament, but when it comes to actual captaincy, given that Nida Dar has the experience and she's the most experienced player in the side as well, it would have been, I guess, a better option because you're playing against Australia. ऐसा भी नहीं कि तुम मतलब किसी दूसरी टीम को खेलो जहाँ पे मुनीबा अली can manage. Like Jeet mentioned, it's a different gravy. Like we're talking about Australia, yeah? But again, they would know their choices and options better. So best of luck to Muniba as well. Let's hope she will be able to do a good job of it. But Jeet, sticking to the 11 itself, last time around they also brought in Sayada Arup Shah. Do you think they're sticking to the same combination apart from Fatima missing out and Diana Blake replacing her? Or do you see another pace option being slotted in?
I think they'll stick with it because irrespectively of where they play, they have to bank upon their spinners. Whether they are effective or not is a different thing. And against Australia also, you probably want to bowl a lot more spin than pace. So I think they will probably stick to that same 11, barring that one forced change. And I don't see a need for them either to, make those changes and get somebody like Tasmia Rubab into the playing 11 against a team like Australia straight away. So I don't see that happening. But yeah, it's going to be a challenge for everyone because with Saida as well, I mean, she did not roll her arm over, if I recollect, in the last game because they just have got two bars and so they utilized her as a wrist spinner. But besides that, yeah, I think they've got Umema who has done a splendid job so far, so they'll continue to back her. Nida Dar might have a lot more overs now once, of course, the responsibility has come upon her in the absence of Fatima Sana, so she's going to be a pivotal character in the lineup as well. Of course, Nashra Sandhu, Sadia Iqbal, so yeah, the onus will be upon them. So as far as space is concerned, yeah, Diana Begg might again chip in with a couple of overs, and outside chance could potentially be them adding just, but then they won't have any pacers. So that's the issue. But I'm just thinking it's a wild thought where they may not even look to add Diana Begg and just go spin heavy. In that case, of course, Alia Riaz will have to kind of chip in with a couple of overs, but then you can't have 20 overs of spin,
Why are
right?
you
So
thinking?
you need an extra batter, is what I'm thinking. So they'll have to probably
Oh,
get somebody in, whether it is Iram Javed. Iram Javed could actually slot in as well because she can chip in with her pace as well. Plus, will add that added batting depth as well if required. So I think Iram Javed could be an option that they could look at, plus an experienced player as well. So if somehow these reports are untrue and Diana Begg is not fit, then I think Iram Javed could be looked upon as an option over Tasmia Rubab.
fair enough. And to be honest, Alia Riaz herself hasn't bowled at all in the recent past. Like we again in the South Africa series as well. So we're not sure if she will be able to contribute there. But that's from Pakistan's POV. Now, speaking about Australia, a well-oiled machine there, Soumi. They've already played 2 games and they've been very good, dominant, like always, in both those games. How would they look at this side? Like, I mean, this game. Like, for them, do you think this is one of those games where they would probably throw in a couple of new players and give them some game time, or do you see them sticking to their first 11 and just trying to dominate once again?
I think they would try to have, I mean, be a little bit more dominant and get into the knockouts with absolute 100%. With their team sorted out, with everyone having a lot of game time under their belt. Of course, they already have. But yeah, I mean, looking at the performances of Australia, we have seen standout performances from Megan Shoot. We have seen some good performance coming in from Beth Mooney. But yeah, I think they still need to consolidate a little bit more, considering that they are Australia and they would want to be absolutely flawless on the field. So yeah, I think that's where they will try to have their backed up team, like the existing team, going in there and play out a little bit more. That's a perception, but considering that, I mean, this is also a contest in which, I mean, I think 15 or 16 times Pakistan and Australia have met, and it's a complete clean slate for Australia till now. So yeah,
Yeah, I'm guessing that's Australia's record against most
winning.
Asian
Yeah,
teams, barring India. Yeah, like Sri
yeah.
Lanka, Bangladesh, Pakistan, they're still a fair mile away from being able to play against Australia competently, I would say. Or okay, let's hope again better results are on the horizon. But Jeet, again, in terms of Australia's batting now, last time around we did see a minor collapse towards the second half of that innings against New Zealand. 6 for 21, 6 for 29, if I'm not wrong, was the collapse. How do you think? I mean, first of all, do you see any changes being made to repair that issue, or do you expect them to stick to the same players and expect them to do better?
No, in fact, there is a chance that they might look to add one or both of Darcy Brown and Taylor Fleming. The reason being, of course, now again the focus shifts upon Dubai after the previous game was in Sharjah, so they had that extra spin option and Grace Harris if required. But given the fact that we're back in Dubai, they'll probably have that extra space back. But here the reason or the focal point being that Pakistan batters tend to struggle against express space, and that is the only reason why I'm seeing that addition of Darcy or Taylor taking place in this particular game. And it will make sense as well, right? Just bowl our express pace, put them into trouble early on in the power play itself and get the job done. So I think it could be a change on that particular forefront and not really batting, because batting में तो फर्क ही नहीं पड़ता है. 10 of their players can always bat. So they don't need to repair anything as far as the batting is concerned. Even if 4 of their players end up getting first ball ducks, it would surely still not matter, because that is the amount of batting depth that they've got and the quality as well of that depth that they've got. So it's an area that will never be a point of concern for them. But in terms of just that bowling and having a few more overs out of Darcy Brown or just giving game time to Taylor Fleming could potentially be on their mind, because, of course, now with plenty of games being targeted at Dubai, it will become something really important as well. And of course, in the evening games, like we have talked about, we've seen how the pace has become a lot more effective with the movement as well. So I think it will make all the more sense for them to add that variety as well of express spacers. I would be more than happy to see both of them playing. Both Taylor and Darcy, just unleash them straight away with the new ball. I know maybe 4 overs, 20 runs or 20 runs wides में होंगे, no balls में होंगे. But that wickets column might show 3 wickets, 4 wickets, and that is what really matters with the express pacers. So I'd be more than happy to see both of them getting added for this game.
But it'll be very interesting to see because after that they play against India in Sharjah, and the semi-final also will most likely happen in Sharjah because the way I look at it is okay. I'll hold on to those thoughts. I don't want to put them on there right now. But yeah, they could also potentially play the semi-final in Dubai in Sharjah. So given that, they might also look at considering giving Grace Harris a bit more time. Kyunki she is coming back from an extended break. पहला ही मैच खेला, she also got a golden duck, so they would want to probably give her some more game time and play her here as well. I know, of course, the obvious choice would be to do the horses for courses swap and bring in an additional pacer, but I do see Megan Shoot being rested here. Just थोड़ा सांस ले लो, workload manage कर लेंगे जो भी चाहिए तो वहां पे एक swap दिखाई देता है. But Grace Harris, I wouldn't be surprised if she continues to get a chance here. I'm sorry about this, Pam. I'm guessing बड़े लोग ने कुछ अपडेट किया वहां पे, but we will sort of Bankonath Singh, thank you for this, ma'am, but we will check into this. We're not aware of any such update right now as things stand. But of course, last bit before we wrap today's review up, prediction time. Shomi, let's start with you. Australia versus Pakistan. Venues Dubai. क्या लग रहा है? Any scope for an upset happening here?
I think it's just we will be living in a delusional world if we say yes. I mean, we do honestly even we don't want that, right? I mean, we don't want any kind of trickle up there with respect to India's qualification hopes, etc. So yeah, I mean, Australia win, and we would want that to stay that way.
Interesting. I mean, Delulu is the only Silulu, is what people say, but I don't think it works in this case. Jeet, again, sticking to Australia here.
Yeah, I have to because, of course, I would want to see Pakistan win just so that, it keeps me interested in terms of the equation heading into last set of games. But realistically, it's very, very, very hard for Pakistan to, defeat Australia. And of course, without Fatima Sana, the challenge becomes even bigger. So Australia realistically should be able to, cap this off quite easily. And it's just another game for them. It doesn't matter who the opponent is. And that's how they treat it, right? Doesn't matter who the opponent is. It's just another game for them. And that's exactly how they would be seeing it. But yeah, easily the favorites for this game.
Yeah, I mean, I wish again, like for someone who always roots for the underdog, it's hard to not go with Australia here. Not just because of the Gulf, because I mean Pakistan is missing out on their key performer on who's arguably been their best player of the tournament so far. So it's a huge miss. Let's hope loss like that potentially. We don't know the things that are going on behind the dressing room. As someone who's also brought up on a diet of Bollywood, थोड़ी कहानियां हमें भी अच्छी लगती है, oh, our best players missing out, and all of this personal setbacks and whatnot. It makes for great content, it makes for great cinema. Let's hope it also makes for great cricket tomorrow. But that's that from today's review and preview. Thank you so much for tuning in, guys. And please make sure you hit the like button if you haven't already. And once again, please make sure to subscribe to us if you haven't already. Sports fan giving us a suggestion here. He says, why don't you do a watch along of the much anticipated Sunday clash between India and Australia? Sure, sports fan. We will definitely consider that and see if we can work something around on Sunday for sure. More than happy to do a watch along. It's been a while now, and India Australia. I don't think it gets better than an India Australia fixture in the World Cup, given India's circumstances as well. It'll make for a great watch along for sure, and it'll make for great reactions. We'll definitely consider that. Thank you so much. It's a goodbye from all of us. Thank you so much for tuning in yet again. We will see you guys tomorrow, 11 p.m. sharp, talking about a bunch of different things, including tomorrow's game. Until then, it's a goodbye from us.